Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this afternoon session. A lovely way to finish off what's been a great day. A lovely way to wrap up the theme of Talent Forward. This afternoon, we've got a great panel of guests to wrangle with the topic of what are the skills of the future? What are the jobs that don't exist yet? We'll make some introductions in just a minute. My name's Sam Hawkins from Always Possible. I'm going to chair today's panel and keep things moving along. Hopefully it'll be quite action-packed and fairly speedy because we've got a lot to get through in just an hour. So the format is we are going to have everybody who's been invited today will have 5 minutes to do a little speed session about what their work is all about and to touch on what they think the jobs of the future are going to be. And then at the end, we will have 10 to 15 minutes to chip through as many questions as we can and discuss some of the topics and things that come up. We're very happy to welcome our panelists today. First of all, we welcome Aideen Sadler. She's the City Manager for Southend for CityFibre. CityFibre is the UK's largest alternative provider of fibre network infrastructure, and it's leading on the development of the fastest possible broadband for cities all across the UK, including Southend, which will be one of the fastest and most well-connected digital cities due to the work of Aideen and her colleagues. So welcome, Aideen. Welcome also Glenn. Glenn is the National Technology Officer for Microsoft. Microsoft needs little introduction, I would have thought, one of the top handful of technology companies of all time. But Glenn's job is a communicator, helping governments, businesses and individuals best use technology to innovate. And Glenn is in charge of the company's culture of learning as well, which we'll hear more about. We welcome as well Carly Withers. Carly is a curriculum manager at South Essex College, overseeing the Science and Animal Care department. Carly runs a cutting edge department that provides training from 16 through to degree and beyond, that takes science from curriculum into work, and offering courses in applied sciences, in environmental science, psychology, criminology and forensic science, alongside animal care and much more. Welcome to Hayley Dixon. Hayley is the Deputy Director at Focal Point Gallery. Focal Point in Southend is one of the premier contemporary art galleries in the region. But more than that, it's an example of a very modern, diversified arts organisation, being an artist creative centre, a gallery with a rich learning programme and a performance and event space as well. And welcome Hepsi Tego. Hepsi is a Doctor of Bioscience, an entrepreneur and business leader, running a charity and a learning centre in Basildon. And on top of that, she's also a National Science Communication Award winner for her work bringing science and technology to the public across the world. And finally, Dr. Ole Koch. He's the Product Development Manager, Space and Quantum at Teledyne e2v. Teledyne e2v is an international engineering firm with its HQ in Chelmsford. And Ole, along with his over 1,500 colleagues, develop sensors and other technology products used in advanced medical treatments across environment and out into space as well. So welcome to everybody. And so I'll kick off and over to you, really. So starting with Aideen, if you'd all like to have 5 minutes just to tell us a little bit about the latest developments in what you do, what you're here and what you're representing. And if I may, if I could ask you to have a go at answering our first provocation this afternoon, which is, what do you think, thinking forward into the 2020s and the 2030s, what is one job that doesn't exist yet that might? Aideen.
Do I need to answer that question now, Sam? Yeah, straight away.
Give an introduction and your little introduction to what we're doing, and if you've time and an inclination, please have a go at that. Thank you very much.
No, I do have a position that I have thought of, and it is an ethical technology advocate. I don't think that job is existing or has come into being, but definitely with the way things are going and the big digital revolution that we're involved in, I think there's definitely could be potentially one of the jobs for the future. So what I would like to do is I'd just like to kick off. I do have some slides to share, and I just want to say firstly, We are really, CityFibre are very proud to be sponsoring Essex 2020, the Talent Forward event. This topic, this subject is very close to my heart, as in a previous career, I was very much involved in education, skills and apprenticeship. So I'm looking forward to hearing your questions and really so happy to be here. So just bear with me and I will try and share my screen. Okay, can you see that? Great, okay. I just want to give a little bit of an overview of what CityFibre are and who we are. We are the third largest alternative infrastructure provider. What that actually means is what we're doing is something transformational for the UK. We're building a world-class digital network, which is underpinned, enabled by fibre optic cables. And this ultimately, in plain English, means that you will get the fastest broadband speeds in the world, up to 1 gigabit. You don't have to wait 2 hours to download a video game. You will be able to download a video game in less than 2 minutes with our network. We lease our network. We lease the actual fibre optic lines to ISP providers like Vodafone, like TalkTalk, and they in turn then sell the broadband to residents and consumers itself per se. Also, we are creating, we're in the middle of an incredible journey, because what has really come through in the last 6 months is that our broadband infrastructure isn't really fit for purpose. There's still a lot of copper, which constricts the bandwidth, which means you get buffering on your Netflix, which means you get thrown out of games. With our network, that does not happen. And it's really brought this into highlighting this in the last couple of months. I'm very proud as well to say that over the next 3 years, CityFibre are creating 10,000 jobs. 9,000 of those will be through a huge, immense build program that we are building all over the UK. And we are looking to actually give the broadband or give the build over to pass over 8 million premises, which is 30% of the UK. So it's something really incredible. I do feel very privileged to be part of this journey for Southend. We're also mobilising in around 67 other cities as well. So watch this space. I just want to share this graphic which I got from an American research agency, and this is why connectivity is so important. In COVID, in the initial national lockdown, you can see this is just a snapshot of what happens every minute of the day online in the US, and you can see the huge volume. You can see WhatsApp is 41,666 messages a minute. YouTube, 500 hours of video. You've got TikTok, 2,704 installations a minute. So this need for connectivity is so crucial for us going forward as we kind of emerge into a new normal. Alongside the fastest broadband, what is also really crucial for CityFibre as well is that our network also enables a lot of the technologies that are emerging today and tomorrow. Some of those are smart traffic control and transport, and we kind of have seen kind of elements of the driverless car, which is beginning to take a little bit of traction as well. Drones, delivery and robots, which Amazon are trialing. Health and social care innovation. This is a huge explosive area of jobs growth as well in the next 5 to 10 years. Also smart high definition CCTV, and also 5G and Internet of Things, which will enable a lot of innovation. Each of those sectors will have their own set of jobs. You know, from talking to a company with drones, they're also looking at potentially, they also see that there may be a need for a drone traffic controller. So with our network, there's going to be a lot of new jobs that we don't, you know, that we aren't aware of coming into being. The skills that you will need. I'm just going to kind of debunk a myth, and lots of parents may be very angry with me, but I do think gaming is good. It really, and what has really kind of taken off as well is a lot of companies have started to use something called gamification. And, you know, gaming gives you a lot of really good problem solving skills. There are some recruitment techniques. There's a recruitment program that are developed by a company called Arctic Shores, and they actually use gaming techniques to actually assess you in recruitment. And this is being used by the likes of Vodafone, Google, and Unilever. And what that really does, it looks at kind of, you know, how quick you can make decisions, how strategic are you. Look at kind of how quickly you're making decisions and what your element of risk are. So it is something that not only is it a huge job area of growth, but it is applied in recruitment. So I think that's important for you to be aware of that. Very quickly, I'm going to cover off on skills you will need to succeed. And this is really, I mean, the key skill, the soft skills are going to be so important as the technical skills, and even more so as we're learning to work remotely. But what the one thing I would like to take for you to take away is to keep being able to learn, unlearn, and learn. You'll have a lifelong learning path ahead of us all, because we will have to unlearn different ways of thinking, different modeling, and be able to adapt very quickly. And also the ability to be curious, to know exactly, or kind of ask questions and think about why, why are things that certain way. And also the ability to be creative is very key, because that is something that robotics and artificial intelligence isn't ever going to be, potentially being able to replicate. They won't be able to do this. And most importantly, what's happened as well in the last is openness and collaboration, and being able to work in a team alongside all of the technical skills. So I'm going to stop it there, because I know I've only got 5 minutes, but really looking forward to ask as many questions you want. Be delighted to hear from you. So thank you.
Aileen, thank you very much indeed. Thank you for wrapping up so succinctly. Well, I will go straight over now to Glenn Robinson. Welcome, Glenn.
Thanks, Sam. Good afternoon, everybody. So as Sam kindly introduced earlier, I'm the National Technology Officer for Microsoft in the UK, which means I own our technology strategy for our UK business, which is things like our cloud computing business. It's things like LinkedIn that you just saw on Aideen's slide, as well as Xbox. So we're well into our gamification, amongst other things. And just like Aideen was saying then, if I reflect on the work that I've been doing with our millions of customers, especially during the peak of COVID, this sentiment around continual learning is going to be probably one of the most important things that's going to prepare you for the future ahead. It's not just global pandemics or financial crises or wars, all the sorts of things that we've seen in our lifetime, environmental catastrophes. There's going to be all manner of things, whether it's political regimes, or we have a big election coming up soon. It could be any number of things that alter the shapes of industries, that affects jobs and the skills needed for the future. Of course, I'm deeply focused on the technology component of that, and I'm very optimistic around technology. Whilst it is incredibly disruptive, it also generally tends to create net greater opportunity in the future. And indeed, the World Economic Forum published a report recently where they stated that artificial intelligence, just a single technology in itself, will likely displace around 75 million job roles. But in doing so, by 2025, will create 133 net new job roles, just around AI itself. So I think that's quite a positive statement when we think about the disruptions of technology. And if we just looked at AI as an example, something that I actually own our strategy on as a business for the UK, it's quite an interesting space when you look at the jobs and the skills and what's needed. And again, similarly to Aideen, but when I think of that, there's the things that AI can't do. So AI today is not very good at showing empathy. It's not very good at creating strategies, and it's not very good at being creative. So when I think about the skills that people are investing in today, it's really the humanities, the arts, and those sorts of things that are going to stand people in really good stead, where they will suffer less disruption from technologies like artificial intelligence. Equally, there's all the opportunities that something like artificial intelligence will create. So what support does it need? Well, first of all, today, if I just look at our business and then across the UK, over 30% of the roles that we advertise in relation to artificial intelligence go unfulfilled. So there's a massive skill shortage directly in relation to that technology, and our demand as a big tech organisation is only ever increasing. Also, there's additional roles that are starting to become apparent as well. So organizations are thinking more and more around the use of AI and augmented decision making and the ethics of the decisions that the AI is actually making. And I work with chief ethics officers now that are not just thinking around an organization and the actions and behaviors and investments that they make. It's more around the decisions that technology can make on its behalf, and is that aligned to the ethics of that business? And of course, there's things like security. So things like artificial intelligence are predicated on the mass consumption of data and the training of machine learning models. So cybersecurity, again, is a role that we're heavily invested in as an organization, where we see lots of opportunities for training. We invest over $1 billion every single year in our cybersecurity practice. We have over 3,500 cybersecurity specialists just protecting our own business from the sorts of threats that we see. And as more organizations become more digital and they digitize their data and their processes, they're going to need to have those sort of robust protections in place as well. I think that in the last bit that I'm really excited about right now, something I work with quite closely, is when we see the coming together of technology and science. And in fact, just this week, I've been working on a project with some colleagues of mine in Cambridge, where they're building a DNA storage device for computers. And if you took all the world's digital data today and wrote it into DNA, it would fill a shoebox in size. So all those millions of years of evolution that we've been on as a species has not gone all in vain, because there's these incredibly efficient ways that we can do things like store data. Just right now, today, it's incredibly inefficient to write the data in and get it back out, but we're improving that all the time. Another area that I'm incredibly excited about, that I work with my colleagues on, and I'm actually quite excited to hear what Ollie's got to say potentially later, is around quantum and quantum computing. And the one thing that I know about quantum is that I don't know anything about quantum. It's the least understood discipline I've ever tackled in my life. And the colleagues that I work with are some of the world foremost leading experts in this space, and they would be the first to agree that they know very little about it still. There's still so much to learn around quantum, about the effects that can have on things like oncology, and how we can sort of come to better decision making and build new molecules that are going to help us solve for some of the world's biggest diseases and problems. But it's all still quite far away from us in terms of actually realizing some of that benefit. So a whole industry, jobs and skills around things like quantum computing, quantum networking, that still lies ahead of us. So I'll leave that there, and I look forward to your questions a bit later.
Thank you, Glenn. That's lovely. A really good summation of how curiosity and creativity can really get you going somewhere in a career in technology. Next up, over to Carly, please. Welcome, Carly.
Hi, thanks, Sam. Hi, everyone. I'm Carly Withers. I'm Curriculum Manager for Animal Care and Science at South Essex College. Just bear with me a second and I'll share my screen with you. Okay, so we have students from schools across Essex and London. We've got 5 campuses in total, but 2 science centres, one in Southend and one in Thurrock. We've just put in some fantastic new labs and crime scene rooms in Thurrock, so we're expanding our cohort over there at the moment. We offer vocational study programmes for those who choose not to take the traditional A-level route. So it ranges from levels 1 to 3, applied, forensic and animal science. Our tutors have a wealth of industry experience. We've got zoologists, marine biologists, forensic scientists, analytical chemists, to name a few. And they really use their expertise to inspire our learners and provide them with the skills that they need to succeed moving forward. So our students, sorry, just a bit of a technical issue. I realise I'm not sharing my screen, so sorry guys. So our students, they progress to a huge range of different courses at higher education and also in industry. So there's a real range of subjects they go into: neuroscience, pharmacology, in industry and in higher education as well. But like the other guys were saying, there's so many new jobs that are continually being developed. And so as educators, we really need to prepare them for this. So just a little bit about me. Before I came into teaching, my previous career was as a forensic toxicologist. So I basically analysed bodily fluids for drugs and poisons in the lab, and then presented my findings and my evidence in court. But in the 5 years that I did this, I noticed that the processes became more automated, standardised. It meant that there was less of the one-off bespoke tests that we used to do in the lab, and things started to become more large-scale, complex large-scale data analysis, and analysts needed to be able to maintain the kind of machines and the equipment that we were using. But that also meant that it freed up a lot more time for them to be working on method development, research, and ultimately innovation in the lab. Same thing with the court reporters. You know, the reporting officers, their templates ended up being standardized as well. So that meant that they had a lot more time to spend building relationships with customers, so police officers and coroners. So although the roles really changed in the time I was there, lots of new opportunities were created as well from technology. So I think it's also really important that we're adaptable moving forward, because careers change and roles do change rapidly. So I think most jobs require these basic skills. Things that I know Glenn just said, that automation can't really produce. Things like people skills, leading a team of people, problem solving. We're going to need people to be able to maintain the automated things that we put in place, leadership skills. And it's important that we also are developing research skills in students. We make sure that our students complete research projects, and we support them in providing, in coming up with their own solutions to solve complex problems, which is things that they're going to need in their day-to-day roles. Also, digital skills. Most of our students have iPhones or phones, but the digital acumen doesn't go further than that. And there's so much information on the internet that it's important that you know what reliable and unreliable information looks like, and how to kind of differentiate between that. So I've certainly noticed a change in the interests and the skills of the students that are coming through for me. For my forensic and criminology students, many of them have real interests in gaming, coding, some really good technical computing knowledge, and they're now progressing to study cybercrime at university, and they become, really skilled digital analysts examining digital evidence, because the majority of evidence collected in criminal cases these days is digital transcripts. There are other criminal justice system opportunities for technology as well. So like Aideen was saying about drones, there are law enforcement drones being used as well. So I think drone technicians, to answer your question, Sam, is something that is a job that's going to open up in law enforcement too. For animal science, our animal science students, the pet care industry is booming at the moment, dog grooming, and it's important that students also are all prepared with the skills they need to run small businesses, things so they can keep up with current trends like going green and using social media to network and market. And it's not just direct careers with animals, it's things also, there's so many species now that are at risk of extinction. So we do need to make sure that we're finding solutions for the continuation of species. There are lots of untapped energy sources like plankton and algae. So something else that I think is going to be, we're going to need skilled marine botanists to develop this. So ultimately, I think it's important that we're resilient and adaptable moving forward. And I think it's important as educators that we're preparing students with those skills so that as the world is evolving, you are also ready for those new challenges.
Holly, thank you. I'm going to jump in there and pick up, but thank you very much for that. And onwards to Hayley.
Hi there. Yeah, lovely to be joining everybody today. My name is Hayley Dixon and I'm the Deputy Director of Focal Point Gallery. We are a contemporary visual arts gallery based in Southend. And our kind of role is to support the production and presentation of new and recent contemporary art that challenges us to think and feel differently about our locality, our sense of self, and the importance of communities. So one of the things that we champion above all things is creative learning and creative education, and the role that creativity can play and support in any job, in any type of situation you might want to progress into, much like some of the other speakers have talked about today. I'm just going to share my screen now to show you our website so you can get a little bit of a flavour of what we do. I'll show you some of the activities and events, and then I'll talk a little bit about the question that's been posed. So yeah, this is just a bit of an overview. So we have an exhibition space in Southend where we commission contemporary artists to produce exhibitions. We work with artists that are thinking about the world in different ways, that are exploring issues in a very unique way to be able to answer some of the questions that we're dealing with and show people a slightly different perspective. So I'll just give you a quick show of, this is the current exhibition we have on in the gallery at the moment, which is called To Dream Effectively, which is all about, it's based from a science fiction novel called The Lave of Heaven, which is all about the main character in that novel has the ability to alter the future by dreaming in different ways. So the artists in this exhibition are all thinking about how we might imagine a different future and how we might use the tools that we possess to create a better environment for ourselves. This exhibition runs till the middle of January, so if you do find yourselves in the area, you'd be very welcome to come and see us and come and have a look at this. As well as having the exhibition space in the gallery, we do a lot that spills out of the gallery space. We work a lot in the town centre. We are, Focal Point Gallery, are part of the local council here in Southend, so we work with our colleagues to try and make fit for purpose programmes for residents and visitors and do lots of different activities. This is a big screen that we have in the centre of Southend, which showcases artist video and which actually we run in collaboration with South Essex College. So a lot of the college students have had work exhibited on here. I'm just going to show you a little bit about our learning program. So as I said, creative learning is a big part of what we do. We do a lot of work with schools and youth groups. We also run a program called Things You Never Get Taught, which is, yes, a kind of all the things that you need to know to work in the creative industries, but things that perhaps haven't been part of formal education. And we work with professionals in the industry to try and identify what some of these things are. So we ran a recent session on how to fund a film and media project. So we had a director based in Southend who was talking through the process of how you might get a project funded, but also we had speakers from the BFI who were talking about the opportunities available to you and different things that you might be able to do. So that's a kind of a very quick overview about us and what we do, but do kind of have a look on our website to see all the other activities. In response to the question there, one of the things I was thinking about was, I think that a job for the future will be something I'll call at the moment a system shaker. I think what the kind of past 6 months have done is identified a number of problems that are within the systems that we live and work in. And it's things that we are going to need people with the skills and confidence and creativity to have a look at those systems and say, this needs to change, this needs to develop. We can't rely on the kind of old excuse of, well, this is the way things have always been done. We need to find innovative people that are going to interrogate why our society is structured the way it is, why our systems operate in particular ways, and we're going to have to then break that down and think about how we can create a better process. And I think, jobs doing that will then be able to work with the likes of Microsoft and Teledyne and find innovative solutions and technological solutions for how we might move forward with that. Picking up on Aideen's point about the ethical technology, and I think that would be a result of that kind of interrogation. How ethical technology needs to be developed, and that's something that's a problem that's been identified that we need to look into. I will advocate for there's a very good documentary at the moment on Netflix called The Social Dilemma, which if anybody hasn't seen, that looks at that issue a little bit, which definitely one to check out. So that's just a little bit about us and the kind of exhibitions and events that we do and the programs that we run. Really excited to join you and hear your questions. Thank you very much.
Hayley, thank you very much. That was great. And next up, please, Chelsea, welcome.
Hello, thank you everyone. I would just jump straight in to share my screen. Okay, my screen share. Right, okay, so the best way I thought to answer this question basically is it was just under 20 years ago when I was a teenager back at school. And a lot of the things that I do today are jobs that they may have existed, but I probably wasn't aware of them. And there's certain industries that are now still evolving, which I find myself working in now. And so I've sort of titled my presentation that your skills today will evolve to fit the jobs of the future. So I started off as well as a research scientist and navigated my way through different sectors just because I never quite found what the perfect fit for my skills were. And so the different places that I found myself in was just because I was still looking and hunting for where I would get to this point and be like, okay, this is where my skills fit the most, and this is where I want to be. So I started off as a research scientist, and I currently I would consider myself a business owner and social entrepreneur. But along the lines, I just go through a few of the various places that I have worked and the skills that I picked up from there and how they tie into skills that I did already have and how they've been harnessed to get me to the point that I'm at now. So one of our speakers talked about adaptability, and it's certainly one of the skills that I would say you would definitely have to have for the jobs of the future. Yes, we all know that everything is being digitalized at the moment, and it probably will be for the next few years until the next who knows what comes along again and changes the status quo. So research-wise, it was a lot of skills around reading, understanding what you're reading, and being able to interpret that information that you were reading. And so I'll link that back to comprehension that you all do at school. I teach as well, so we're back at school now. So all the things you have to sort of do through comprehension at school, I would say some of the skills that had to be developed to the current jobs that I found myself in the future. We also come to precision and data analysis, which also ties in with all the digital trend that we're facing now, in that you would have to be quite precise. We heard about DNA data in your analysis and in your computerization if you find yourself on the development side of the technologies that we need for the future. So these are some of the skills that tied into the research career. And then we come into communication as well. So public speaking, being able to take a piece of information, because don't forget, if you are at the productive side of all this technology, you need to be able to communicate with the end user so that they can have that user experience that you as a developer, or if you were working in cybersecurity or analysis side of things, that that user experience is embedded in whatever it is that you're developing. The other thing I would say, again, I found myself going into science writing, a bit of science journalism, just around issues at the time that you're passionate about, that you do want to communicate about. And for skills in the future, careers in the future where you would find yourself inclined to go into those sectors, it's about finding that common ground. Because again, you need to, I would say, not just passion, but then have some kind of connection with the industry that you're going into to be able to, I suppose, produce your best if it's a role that you're going to be in for a while. And so we talked about business skills as well, which I think they're quite key, and a lot of creativity has come about. But in that creativity, I'd like to mention inclusivity. And so there's been gaming that's been talked about, but then it's a case of, so in that gaming process, how inclusive is that gaming experience at the developer stage? Are we considering neuroplasticity? Are we considering people with perhaps visual impairment, hearing impairment? So again, looking at the jobs that we need for the skills required for the jobs of the future, I'd also want to highlight the fact that you do need to factor in these skills of empathy and inclusivity for the end user as well. And yeah, back to more creativity. So coming back to the skills that have brought me to where I am today. So off the back of the writing, the research, the communication, the presentations, it then got to a point where it was quite clear and apparent to me that what I did really love doing, and the skills that worked quite well through all the experiences that I'd had, was creativity in communicating the science to the general public. Okay, so the non-scientific audience, which is why I think I keep talking about the user experience, because I mean, you develop a phone. I mean, there are lots of apps on my phone that I keep having to go into the Apple store near me to try and figure out how to use them, right? And then in the same way, when my kids have switched their game on, they're trying to play the games, the questions they're asking, and I have to go back and read the manual and try to figure out what it is that you're supposed to do with this game. Same thing in any industry that you go into. I mean, you would have to obviously go through your induction, understand the processes that you're working with. And so I would say being able to, again, unlearn the things that you may have learned to evolve with whatever the new trends would be, and just generally staying adaptable and moving on with the trends. And finally, so it's all come together for business now, and so I can maintain my creativity, still evolving with the current trends. And so if we have to, you know, perhaps embed theatre in what we do, whereas we may not have done that previously, things that would have to factor in now. Of course, COVID came, and whereas we had a lot of place-based experiences, we've had to move that on and adapt to having a lot more online engagement, while still thinking about how it can stay inclusive, and we can still meet that user experience that's been talked about. So I will leave it here, and really the last slide, I'll forward it with you. It's my favorite quote from Peter Pan, and I would say, so yes, there is no limit to what you can achieve if you stay focused. And as I started from the beginning, that the skills today will evolve to fit the jobs of the future. And that's what I would say would need to be focusing on. That's it from me.
Lovely, thank you so much. Really good message there about not losing sight of the classical skills and how they'll serve you well as you progress. That's great. And then finally, for the time being, before we have a bit of a discussion, Ula, please.
Yes, hello, thank you. Let me just share the screen. Excellent. I hope that you can see that now. Yes, thank you for inviting me and contributing a bit more towards what E2V is up to and what we're doing here, and how we can help young people develop interesting careers. So briefly give an overview of what Talent E2V actually does, because I think we're not as well known as Microsoft, for example. So we are in Chelmsford, one of the technology companies, and with about 1,600 employees worldwide, or part of the bigger Teledyne group, we're about at 10,000 employees. So we're a fairly large company, but I think the important number is on site or in this company, we have about over a third of engineers and scientists. So we're absolutely an engineering and science focused company. And you can see that in our DNA. Everything we do, if it's difficult to do, we usually have a go at that. And yeah, we're worldwide, with Chelmsford being the main site. So there's just under 1,000 people here. And you not notice actually how big the site is. It's nicely hidden in the center of Chelmsford, but taking up quite a big space. And yeah, we have lots of internal development, apprenticeship schemes, which I'll mention a bit later on. But briefly give a glance on what does Teledyne E2V in Chelmsford actually do. So there's one main activity is the imaging activity, where we have a wafer fab on site. And that is literally where we produce our own imaging sensors, and they mainly go into space. So if you've ever seen a picture from space, Hubble telescope, Pluto, Rosetta, the little shuttle comet, there's a good chance that was one of our imaging sensors. So quite high technology we have here. Then on the other hand, we have RF power. So these guys produce magnetrons. So something was just high power, like you have your microwave, just a factor of a few thousand more powerful. What to use it for example, if you're in the unfortunate case that you have cancer, you can use X-rays to actually bombard the cancer. And we're a big provider of that. And then actually in the Bioteledyne business, we do a lot of other things. So we're in Hubble, we do underwater submarines, we do imaging sensors, X-ray generators, UV sensors. We have a few MEMS foundries as well. So actually a very broad technology company. And then the area I'm specific on, I'll dwell a bit more on that, is quantum technologies. So that's something people might have heard of this before. Quantum, what is this thing, quantum? And yeah, as Glenn mentioned, basically the more you understand about quantum, the more you know you don't actually understand anything. So it's a fairly complex thing. But we're using these, basically we're using atoms to actually measure or do things for us. So I won't actually do a full quantum explanation, but we're active in sensing using the atoms, and we're building atomic clocks, we're building little small satellites, and we're active in secure communications. The one thing we're not active in is quantum computers. There's plenty other crazy people out there who've got a lot longer breath than we do to get this to work. But I want to use this as a bit of an example to talk about how life actually is on let's say, technology development. Let's take an example of atomic clock developments. So that's one of the projects I'm leading. So we've got about 10 to 15 people in that for a few years. And basically what people are actually on these projects. So it's a few scientists actually, so the core quantum people who actually know what's happened inside. But otherwise around that, there's a lot of other people, a lot of skills, which are used. So we've got electronics people, we've got a lot of mechanical people. So it's a lot of still our model shop, a lot of mechanical design is actually still involved in that. So people who've got nothing to do with quantum or science as such, but who are very much involved and need to precision machine things, and that's still very much a skill involved with us. And then who are software programmers and similar. And with this, I'll lead a bit into the question of which job doesn't exist yet. I'll slightly rephrase that onto the question on how does jobs and working in the future actually look like? Because my view is that basically at the moment, you might have had someone in the company for the last 20, 30 years who was a programmer for this, who was a mechanical specialist on this, and so on. I think what's happening a lot more when we're doing these projects as well, that people take on certain roles of stuff they're good at. So I think especially with everything becoming more and more online now, you'll see a lot more of that happening, that you might be very good at programming a certain thing or at a specific laser or so on, and that project teams and activities just form a lot more ad hoc and probably even more across the boundaries of your company. So I don't think people will have a specific job role in the future, but just say, I'm good at this, this, and this, and this, and for the next activity, I'll only utilize this activity. And then to keep in time, one last thing on our apprenticeship scheme, but also based on the question of should you study, do an apprenticeship, I think they're both very valuable. Apprenticeships, you learn on the jobs, and actually you can qualify up to a bachelor's, and we have quite a few apprentices who afterwards do a master's as well. Whereas if you study, you have a lot more foundational knowledge which you can then apply afterwards. So keeping to time, hopefully, I'll hand back over to you.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you everybody for your introductions. So we did start off with a little query about what were some of the jobs of the future, or ones that you know about, and we had digital ethicist there, we had systems shaper, and that final one from Teledyne, which I've got a note of as a job that's more the stuff you're good at, and projects forming around that. That's really interesting. Please, if anyone has any questions, do drop them into the chat. We don't have any at the moment, so I'm going to kick off with one. Kind of interested in looking at sort of a specific angle, really, that you know, a lot of this umbrella of what we're looking at is around digital skills, and there is a talk about a need, whether that's through job ads or efforts of education, that everybody needs a broad range of digital skills. That's fair. But what does that actually mean in your industry? And Carly touched on this interestingly, that actually the specific skill is to need to understand information and the authenticity of information, which I thought was a really good example. But maybe if I could come to Hayley, sort of talking about the creative angle, and what are the specific digital skills that you find are important? And after that, perhaps I could come to Aideen as well.
Always good to be picked on first. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think for us, it's been interesting the last 6 months, because as an environment where, you know, we do really champion the live experience. You know, we like people coming through our doors and into it. It's about the experience of being in a space and connecting with that. So this transition to everything being online has been interesting, and I think one of the things that we've really considered in this period is not to, I think a key thing is about not using digital or technology as to kind of replicate a live experience, or to you know, just to have a kind of different version of live, but actually think about, I think it's about knowing the capabilities of what digital can do and design for that purpose. So I think, you know, in terms of the artists that we work with and the skills that they would have, I think there is an element of knowing the context of the kind of digital, of what digital can do. And then I think for us as an organization, it's about how we might adapt to reach people. So there's all, there's a whole breadth of kind of skills and areas where digital can be used, whether that's in marketing and outreach, where communicating with people in a kind of to develop what we're doing. It actually, it means that our kind of international program can really grow, because it means that we can work, much more easily with artists that aren't here, but we can develop. It was interesting, this current show we have on, there are 13 artists involved in the show. Not one of them came to install their work. Everything was done remotely. Everything was done kind of using with doing that kind of remote mapping or sharing imagery. So that's been I think that's been really interesting. So in terms of the skills, I think we will see more artists using digital technologies. It will be interesting to see whether, in terms of what work is produced over the next 10 years, will we get lots of sculpture and paintings, or will people be focused more on the kind of digital as a medium to translate their ideas? I think that's inevitable that will happen, because that's the arena in which we're living and working in. And I think you can learn a lot from the artists that are really embedded and using those skills to be able to then apply them to different ways of doing things, and how, I think the arts are often seen as, well, it's a kind of leisure experience, but actually some of the techniques that artists are using can be applied to real world problem solving. And I think it's that area I think there's real potential in.
Excellent answer. Thank you so much. I'll stop screen sharing so we can see you a little better. Aideen, if I could come to you, please.
Yeah, from a City Fibre perspective, I think we've gone through a lot of digital transformation as well within our own company. The digital skills element, we are using so many different platforms, different programs, both from an engineering point of view and from a marketing point of view. For example, or there's a role that we call our GIS technicians, which is, and they use Google Small Earth to map, to map out our network and where to plan and look at the landscape, the rural, whether it's an urban landscape, to start to plot a design of the network. So it's the ability really to learn all the different systems and to adapt and to tailor them and innovate from them. And then from the marketing side, we've done a lot of data analytics, and of course the social media call to action campaigns as well. So very much, yes, it's only going to grow. But I do think, today's generation, they are, I think, digital natives. They, what we have found, they know how to instantly, they know how to create communities. They know, and that's something that is very much a skill that's in demand at this moment.
Thank you. We have our first question from the floor, so thank you very much for this. And actually, this suits us quite well because it's a bit more of a quick fire one, so everybody could have a go at that. So please do chip in when you feel inspired. So the question is, really, what is the piece of advice you would give to somebody aged 14 to 25 trying to break into your industry?
Should I go first? So the question was age 14 to 25 who wants to break into the industry. Well, there's two ways probably. One is, for example, the apprenticeship scheme. Find an interesting company, apply to that company. Well, first finish school and A-levels probably, but then apply to the company for an apprenticeship scheme, and you get training on the job and get all the skills you will need for that. The other way is to go to university, which of course costs quite a bit more money nowadays in the UK, but then pick a subject you like, which you're good at, but also which aligns to that industry. So for these ones, physics, chemistry, engineering, IT, all these ones. And I'd say what you should do is, what we do have a few people doing is contact the company, say E2V, Microsoft, or others. You now have a few names here. Stalk us on LinkedIn. Text us to say, oh, I found this interesting. Can I do an internship with you? Or I'm studying, I'll be finishing soon. Can we have a discussion about, is there an opportunity for me in the company? Get proactive, talk to us. We're usually very happy to talk to potential future employees.
Thank you. Anybody else from the panel? Got any
Yeah,
words of wisdom?
I'll chip into this one.
Hepsi.
I would say for that age bracket, definitely try volunteering as well across a few various organizations. Because if there's any skill that's declined in the current young generation is volunteering. And so that's what I would suggest as well. Yeah, apprenticeships are great, volunteering as well, because then you can dip your toes in various sectors, some which you may not even be aware of. And then through that, you can discover new skills and areas that you can develop.
Yes, try things out. Sounds great. Carly?
Yeah, just on the end of what Hepsi was saying about the importance of volunteering and work experience. Sometimes A-levels aren't the most logical route for some students. So I would also encourage them to pursue vocational courses. This starts level 2, level 3, applied science. There are so many different subjects and they incorporate a work experience element as well so that they get that valuable vocational experience too.
Thank you.
I think mine would be the kind of enthusiasm and immersing yourself in the industry and think about what it is that you want to be part of and how you can kind of gain experience but also knowledge within it. So if it's about the visual arts, it's about go to as many galleries as you can, like think about like what artists do, like try and have conversations, attend events that people are holding, just kind of try and get involved as much as possible and learn the industry through just deciding you're going to be a part of it. That's build your network within, and you'll find that there are other people in your situation who can help you along. There's a great art scene that's really developing in Southend of young creators who are all working together to help each other and make your own things happen. Like I think don't be afraid that there's only one way of doing things. There's different ways to get involved and to make things happen, and it's really on the strength of your ideas and enthusiasm that will work.
And on that note, actually, is how do you see people best documenting not only their achievements at school or university, but their hobbies and their interests? Is it still CVs and a LinkedIn profile, or there are other ways to approach that? How should people go about that? Maybe tying into the sort of gamification idea, just as a sort of final thought. Aideen or Glenn, you're both coming in. Aideen, please.
Yeah, no, I was just going to add on to Hayley's as well and to everybody's, definitely volunteering, but just to come back and check your digital footprint, because that is so important, because it's all out there. Check your privacy settings and, ensure that what you have is, is good and fits the purpose of whatever job you're trying to get into. Very much so. So very much on the digital footprint, check your privacy settings, because I know in my past role, I've had to have very difficult conversations with employers and with potential candidates where that job didn't come to fruition because of not having the digital footprint compromise them. Absolutely, but it is very much. I do see definitely a move away from CVs. We're doing CityFibre are doing an Instagram. We have done some Instagram recruitment campaigns as well, and it's very much kind of looking at a digital portfolio for students.
Lovely, thank you, Glenn.
Yeah, maybe just to add to that, although I'm incredibly biased, because I would say LinkedIn, because if you don't know, that's a Microsoft company, so we bought them a few years ago. but it's a really awesome tool. So I worked for Amazon before I worked for Microsoft, and equally then and now we use AI to trawl. And just to Aidine's point, we use machine learning algorithms when people are coming in through recruitment. We will trawl through their entire online presence, and we'll build a digital sentiment of that individual. What type of person are they? What sort of ethics? What sort of values? What sort of interests? How present are they, and in which communities? So we'll get a big digital footprint summary, which will be sent to me as a hiring manager, which will say this person is into these sports, this person enjoys these communities, this person has these networks, which immediately allows me to learn a lot about an individual before I've even invited them in for an interview. So to Aidine's point, if it's online, it's there for life, and there's no escape. So be very, very careful about what you are putting online. Equally, be very considerate about what you're putting online. So equally, on tools like LinkedIn, when people manage their profiles effectively, we use artificial intelligence to actually suggest people training and programs that they should involve themselves in to help better meet their career aspirations of the future. So if someone's starting to add qualifications and experiences in certain areas, we'll make all sorts of suggestions. And right now we've just invested in training over 150,000 people in the UK with skills to sort of re-pivot into new jobs. So we're doing that in an automated way where we'll match the skills of people once they've acknowledged the skills or certification or a form of qualification in LinkedIn. Because jobs are advertised on LinkedIn, we'll then automatically do the matching and link those people up into those jobs. So I think tools like LinkedIn, and of course other resources like that, and digital media in general, are incredibly powerful from both sides, but could equally be quite dangerous depending on how you've been using it previously. So just be really mindful, but use it purposefully and intentionally to advance your career.
Thank you so much. We're now over time, sadly. So just want to extend a great big thank you to everybody who's taken part. We'd love to continue this conversation. For those viewing on Zoom, we've put links to everybody's companies where you can find more information about any schemes, projects, opportunities, and ways to get in touch and nudge and ask more questions, which we would encourage you to do. So please do stick around. There'll be a short film to close out from Global Marine Group and their apprenticeship program. But thanks for tuning in, and all the very best. Bye for now.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Huge thank you to all the panelists and to CityFibre for sponsoring today. Thank you. It wouldn't have been possible without you. Thank you so much for joining us, and keep looking back on Essex 2020 for a write-up about the day. Check out the resources sections and all our amazing upcoming events. There's a lot on this half term, so check out essex2020.com/events. Thank you very much. Bye.
Hello, my name's Grant. I'm doing a level 4 HNC Advanced Manufacturing Engineering at college. I'm an apprentice at Global Marine Group, so I do that 1 day a week on day release, and I'm doing the mechanical pathway in that. But a bit more background information about me. So when I was 18, I finished my A-levels. I did maths, physics and business, and then I went to university, as that's what I thought you're supposed to do, and didn't know what I really wanted to do when I was 18. So I went into University at Anglia Ruskin in Cambridge and did computer game technology. I did that up until January and then dropped out because it wasn't really the course I wanted to do. So I ended up working for a year and a bit, and then I went back to university and I did aerospace engineering with space technology, and then I kind of worked for a couple of months, and I saw an ad online for a design engineer that required CATIA, and I did a bit of CATIA in my engineering degree beforehand, so I thought I'd apply for that, and I ended up getting the job in the end based on the fact that I did CATIA. So I came into this new role in a company before the one I'm in now called ADP, which is an interior design company for sports cars. So I can't tell you what cars I worked on, but I can tell you basically what I did. So I was in the design office and on the manufacturing floor, learning the basics of manufacturing and design. So looking at standards and doing drawings mainly. But it kind of gave me a foundation for 3D modeling and, getting into project engineering and those kind of things. But unfortunately, I lost that job in March, and I was unemployed for 6 months due to COVID. And I know it's been tough for everyone. But luckily, my college kept me on a break in learning, and Global Marine Group were going around colleges, and I managed to get scouted and went for interview for Global Marine Group and actually got the job. And that's where I am today. And I'm really happy that I'm working here because it's such an amazing company. And it really aligns with my end goals because eventually I want to become a chartered engineer. The reason I'm engineering is because it interests me because it's a process. A lot of people believe it's just finding solutions for a problem, but I believe it's only 5% of the other 95% should be spent finding the problem. And not only is it important to be good at problem solving and understand how to analyse complex problems, but it's also important to be able to work as a team, have good organisation skills, and to understand how to manage a project. Particularly in my role, I need to understand the 95% before I can tackle the 5%. Another reason would be because I get to engage my creative side, and not a lot of people can say that about their jobs, especially in a technical one. I engage in quite a lot of project meetings and having enough input into potential design solutions is really, really good and fun. And then drawing and 3D modeling is another area where I get to engage that creative side too. And then the best part about it is you get to see it through all the way to a physical product, and I find it quite satisfying, really. What Global Marine Group is, because I haven't really touched on that yet, it is an innovative market leader in offshore engineering with an enviable track record of successful project execution. The group delivers a comprehensive range of services from the telecommunications, offshore renewables, utilities, and oil and gas sectors. So it's quite a broad range of sectors they cover. And not only do they work in that, they also do pioneering innovation onto vessels and crew transfer vehicles. For example, one I'm working at the moment is a hybrid crew transfer vehicle, which is half electric and half piston engine, so fuel. So we're really focused on, being in the renewable sector with power and sea wind. It's really focused on renewables, and they're constantly researching and developing to be able to keep up with new technologies, standards, and ideologies in order to stay competitive in the changing market. This really works symbiotically with what I want to achieve. They have a great company culture and constantly focus on how they can help me and everyone, not just me. I have regular performance reviews and targets, so I'm always striving to do better, and I feel really valued within the company. So I've been there for 2 months now. They're constantly helping me achieve my goals. A reason for this is because the company is quite flexible. It tailors to your strengths. So if I wanted to work in a different sector within the company, they would definitely make it happen, as it not only benefits me, but it also benefits them for me to be working in a job that I'm good at and a job that I actually enjoy. But fortunately, I'm happy where I am. I work in project engineering in a team of 5. I'm involved with a few projects all over the company. So, it's never no 2 days are the same. So I'm currently working on like I said before, a hybrid crew transfer vehicle, but I have been working on beach installation storyboards, a lot of drafts work, and some various other projects. So it's always changing. It's very exciting. Being in project engineering also allows me to pick the brains of my very intelligent team, who are just full of information, and they're strong in their independent areas. So it really helps me to further my learning in networking capabilities, which is a big focus my manager puts onto me to really engage with not only him, but everyone in the company. And I've actually created a log of everyone that I've met so that I know who specialises in what and where to go when I need help. My top tip, if you want to go into engineering, is to not feel pressure to do what everyone else does when you finish your A-levels. or even before that if you just come straight out of school. Go with your gut, get involved with everything you can constantly, with everything you can do, and constantly be learning, always be learning. There's so many jobs that you won't have heard of until you apply yourself, especially with the future being so interchangeable at the moment. There'll be new and up and coming sectors that you won't even heard of yet. So like I said, unless you get involved, you're never going to hear about them. So get out there and get involved. Get into the industry however you can, whether that be university, apprenticeship, trainee, or just a standard position. At least you're in an engineering environment around like-minded people, and they'll be able to point you in the right direction. You can always ask your manager, oh, look, I want to learn more. How do I go about doing this? And hopefully they'll allow you to do that. But another tip would be to be resilient. Like myself, you may fall a couple of times, but keep getting back up and show the enthusiasm to learn, and it will really resonate around you. It will show in your interviews, and just, don't give up.